Hey there, gang. Welcome back to Papa's Model Workshop. I'm Papa, and this is my workshop. Happy New Year. Um, I mentioned before that I was going to start a new video series called Papa's Basics. Basically, what that is going to be a series designed for the brand new person coming into the hobby, or maybe a person who is interested in getting into the hobby, but you haven't quite taken that first step to get your basic materials and a kit. I see that an awful lot on a lot of the Facebook pages where people say, I've been a member of this group and I'm interested and I haven't gotten started yet. So this is going to be something to try to help that person out who is just looking to get started in this hobby. If you have watched YouTube, and I'm trying to adjust my chair here, so just bear with me. That's better. If you're just interested in getting started and you watch YouTube and so forth, you'll see a lot of channels where, people are using a lot of equipment, airbrushes, compressors, and spray booths and so forth. If you're just getting started, I'm going to actually make the recommendation that you don't run out and get an airbrush and get all of the equipment and so forth. And the reason I suggest that is because you want to make sure that you're going to get involved in this hobby before you spend that kind of money. Last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money on equipment and tools, and it turns out that you don't really like this. And for me, I love this hobby. I can't get enough of it, but that's me. I have a good example of that. My son Bobby works for a security company, monitoring and security, fire alarms and burglar alarms, I guess. And he's a traffic manager there. And one of his drivers came to him a couple of months ago, and he said, "I know your dad builds models. I went out and I bought this kit. And turns out, after looking it over, this isn't really a hobby for me." And he gave the kit to my son, who in turn gave it to me, which I was thrilled to get. It was a 1971 CUDA, I think it was. And I actually built that kit, took it to a model car show, and it was selected to be photographed. So I was really rather pleased with that. Anyway, my point is, he went out and he bought the kit. He bought paint. Okay, these are basic Testors paints that you can buy, and he bought some glue. And that's really about all he went out and bought. Which, again, as I said, that was the smart thing to do because his expenses were not all that much. If you go out and you spend an awful lot of money and you decide this isn't for me, then that's kind of a tragedy for your wallet. So that's why I'm making the recommendation that I am. What I would suggest if you're just starting out is to start out with spray can that is specifically designed for plastic model building. This is Testors. The one that I personally think is the best is Tamiya. All right, and Tamiya primer as well. Okay, again, that's subjective, matter of preference, but that's the way I would go if you're going to select spray painting. Some of the other basic items that you'll need, and I'm going to give you an items list that is really just the bare minimum. And my dog is down here, obviously. I'm going to have to pause this because he wants a bone. I got a great big thing of bones right over here, and that's what he wants. So I'm going to have to pause this and give him a bone, or he's going to be doing this through the entire video. Okay, so I put some bones down on the floor, and I actually have 3 dogs, and they all came running down here. So now I've got 3 of them down here. So if you've ever watched any of my other videos where I'm doing, builds, and so forth, I usually make those videos on Saturdays. And on Saturdays, I have grandchildren here. So Saturday videos, I have grandchildren down here. I have dogs down here. It's a real circus. So today is actually a Thursday. And I don't normally make videos during the week, but this is New Year's week, and I'm off this week. So I'm down here in my workshop, and I'm absolutely loving it because I don't get much workshop time during the week. I own a business, and during the week, I just don't have the time or even the energy to get down here. So I'm in heaven this week, being I'm off. I've been down here all week. All right, so let's get back to the subject at hand while the dogs are eating their bones over there. The bare basics that I'm going to recommend for you are, well, the first thing that I would recommend is good lighting. And you can see right here in the background, I have lighting on my right and on my left, and I have a light over here. Whoop, there we go. There it is. Okay. And it's good to have lighting on all sides of you, because what happens is, when you're down working at your workbench, if you have lighting only on one side, you end up getting a shadow. And that shadowing effect, particularly when you're down working on a small detailed area, trust me, that shadow will drive you crazy. And I picked these lights up here at Lowe's, I think. They come with a clamp. They clamp right to my workbench. They were inexpensive. I really don't remember what I paid for them, but it was something nominal, like $10 or $15 or something like that for these lights. And they're LED and they're bright. They're really great. Where I'm sitting right now, this is my paint workbench. Over in the back, where you can't see, is where my assembly bench is. And I have a LED light that goes up here and goes across, and then it's got wings that come to the left and wings that come to the right. It's a terrific light, but it gives me all of the lighting that I need. So again, that's the number one thing I think I would stress in starting out, is making sure you have good lighting. I even have a flashlight right here, because sometimes as much light as I have here, you get down into an engine compartment or something like that, and there's a little recessed area, and I still need to jump in there with a flashlight to see what I'm doing. I also keep this flashlight here for another reason, and for somebody who is more experienced, you're going to understand this. You drop a tiny little piece on the floor, you would think that, okay, it fell straight down, it should be right there, and trust me, it's not. I have found things that I have dropped feet away, and I shouldn't even limit it to dropping something small. I mean, you could drop an aircraft carrier under there and it just disappears. I mean, we all have a Bermuda Triangle under our workbenches. And if you're just starting out in this hobby, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. So that's the other reason for this flashlight, so I can get down on my hands and knees and search for my missing parts. Okay, so what else do we have here? I'm going to put these on. Okay, I'm an old guy, so don't make fun of the glasses. X-Acto knife, that's an important thing to have. And there's a number of X-Acto knives that you can choose from, all right? But an X-Acto knife is something that you will absolutely need in this hobby. You want to use a number 11 blade and have lots of those on hand, and try to keep the top on it, because you don't want to make a mistake and reach down for this and that blade is sticking up, and trust me, it'll ruin your day. I have a video from a while ago where I was over at the other workbench. I think it's titled X-Acto Knife Attack because I was opening up a mail call, boxes and packages that came in, and on camera I was opening them with the X-Acto knife, and I cut my thumb right on camera. So keep this on. Okay. And in my case, I have the grandchildren down here on Saturday, so I absolutely have to keep this on and actually keep it up out of reach. So an X-Acto knife is absolutely something that you're going to need. Okay, what else do we have here? Tweezers. You're going to need tweezers. And there you go. You can buy a whole, I don't know if you call it a package, but what I have, it looks like it comes in a satchel, I guess, and it comes with like 10 or 12 of these. But tweezers are something that you're going to need. And let's see, plastic nippers. Here we go. You're going to need nippers to trim little pieces of plastic off of an individual part. But most importantly, your pieces, and let me see here, your pieces come on something called a sprue, okay? This part down here is called a sprue. It's where the pieces are attached. Some people call it a parts tree. Parts tree, sprue, same thing. And this, you come right in here and you just clip. There we go. I'm looking at the camera. I'm not looking at this, and I'm screwing this up. You just clip these off. So this is what this is for. This is a real inexpensive pair of nippers that I got at Hobby Lobby. Now, this is good enough if you're just starting out. If you decide later on, gee, I really like this, and you want to go up to something a little bit better, this is called a Rui tool. Okay. And there's a number of high-end nippers that you can get. The Rui tool is the one that I use. It's nice because it's got a very, very thin blade, so I can get into between the part and the sprue, and it cuts it off nice with very little jagged edge left to it. Now, very little is not zero. You're going to have a little bit. All right, and for that reason, I will suggest also to pick up some files, okay? These are files that are specific for plastic modeling. I think I got these at Hobby Lobby. Inexpensive. It's a good thing to have. And then, after using that file, I use sanding sticks an awful lot. You're going to need sandpaper. You can go with sanding sticks, okay, or sanding sponge. And smaller sanding sticks like this. This is kind of neat because it has a point to it. Can you see that? So if you have to get into a real tight spot, this will get in there for you. So you're going to need sanding sticks as well, or old-fashioned sandpaper. That'll certainly work. For me, I have sandpaper that goes all the way down to 80 grit, and I have sandpaper and sanding sticks and so forth that go up as high as 12,000. I don't go through that entire range when I am doing a car body, for example. I will generally wet sand. And wet sanding simply means you dip your sandpaper or your sanding sponge or sanding stick. I keep water down here all the time, and you just dip it in there, and you go over your car body or whatever other parts that you're working on. That's wet sanding. That's all. And I generally would start my wet sanding on a car body at around maybe 800. I'll graduate up to maybe 1,000. And then up to 2,000. And I will sometimes stop at 2,000. Sometimes I'll go up to 3,000. It's very, very subjective. Some guys just go with 1,000 and maybe 1,500 after that and call it a day. Other guys will go the full range. They'll start at 400 and they'll graduate up to 6, 8, 1,000, 1,500, and so on, all the way up the ladder to like 12,000. That's fine too. That will work. Absolutely. It's probably the most thorough way to go about doing things. So, you will eventually learn what you're comfortable with. I would strongly suggest that you watch other YouTube channels. If you're watching me right now, then I'm sure you already are. And as you go through different YouTube channels and so forth, you will see a variety of opinions. None of them are necessarily the one and only way. There is no one and only way. You take all the information that you see and you kind of combine it and try it, and then you will develop your own way of doing things. And that's really the right way, finding your way. So, okay, so where are we here? You're going to need lacquer thinner. Now, I have a big thing of lacquer thinner. It's in a gallon-sized can down there. You're just going to have to take my word for it because it's buried behind some stuff. What I do is I take a funnel and I transfer it into this little ketchup bottle. And, of course, it has a little nozzle where I can just squeeze, where I can just squeeze it and that works well for me. I use the lacquer thinner to clean out my airbrush and so forth. You can use it for cleaning out your brushes if you're applying paint to your build with a brush. For the airbrush, I use something a little bit better. I use this Mr. Color, or yeah, what is that? Mr. Color. Okay, Mr. Color leveling thinner. That's what I use in my airbrush. I mix my uh, paint ratios with that, and I like that because it's a leveling thinner, so it will spread out the pigment as it's drying. And in my case, I have a food dehydrator right over here, and the food dehydrator is great because where you have certain paints where it'll take a day or more, some paints will take several days. There are even some paints, like the old Testors paints, might even take a couple of weeks to dry. Well, the dehydrator will dry most paints in about a half an hour. So it's something that works very well for me. And if you are a person that gets into this with both hands and you love doing this, I would certainly suggest getting a dehydrator. But at this point, as a bare bones beginner, yeah, that's one of those things that I would not necessarily recommend you run out and get until you know that you're going to stick with this hobby. It's not expensive. The one I got, I think it was about $130. You know, you mentioned dehydrator, and it sounds like it's a major expense, and it's really not that terrible. And the one that I got for $130, I think is really a very good one. It's got a door that seals and so forth, and it comes with a bunch of racks where I can put multiple things in there at one time. You can get other ones, that are cheaper than that. It'll do the job. So anyway, again, that's if you decide to get into this hobby. Okay, so what else do we have here? A pin vise. Okay, that's an important thing to have. This is a pin vise. Basically, it's just a hand drill. Okay, and you can put different, this you unscrew this to put different bits in there. You can get micro bits, and you can make a tiny little hair hole if you need to. And the pin vise, you will. Can I get this? There we go. You can just screw this in and make a hole. Now, a lot of times, can you see the holes that are already there? Okay, so that's where you would attach another piece. A lot of times you'll find that you go to attach a piece in one of those pilot holes, and the piece, it doesn't fit, okay, because the hole is not large enough. So you have to sometimes make that hole a little bit larger with the pin vise. There are other times where you might want to make a hole that doesn't exist. If you want to put side view mirrors on your car, maybe the kit didn't come with side view mirrors, so you got side view mirrors, an aftermarket type of thing. And there are a lot of aftermarket places that you can shop and pick up other parts. You can make your own hole with a pin vise. So, excuse me. That's something that I would certainly suggest. Where spray paint, we already covered that. Primer, we already covered that. Toothpicks are a good thing to have. Okay, and I keep a big thing of toothpicks right here. Okay, I see I'm smart enough. I took my finger and held it in there, because normally what I would do, like a dope, is I would hold this up and turn it and drop the whole thing all over the place. But I've got my coffee here with me. Okay, so brain's working a little bit today. So anyway, so what do you need toothpicks for? Okay, well, I'll tell you. A lot of times, you'll paint something. Okay, this is an engine block for a '69 Chevelle. And maybe there's a spot where you need to get some paint into a little area, and you just put a little bit of paint on the tip of the toothpick, and you can get into that little spot. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing is, if you're gluing parts together, excuse me while I look here. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter. Let me grab these two. Now, these two things do not go together. I'm just using this as an example. But let's say you're going to glue these two pieces together. Okay, 1, 2. And you can just put a little bit of glue on the tip again and get it into a little recessed area like this, rather than trying to get, this big nozzle in there. Okay, this is, turn this around so you can see what this is. This is Revell contact cement. All right, I happen to like this. Has a little applicator right there. And if you can see this, I have, it's hard to do this with my big beefy hands so you can see it, but I have a little stick. There we go. No, there it is. Can you see that? Oh, I dropped it. Okay, forget about it. There we go. There it is. Okay. I have a little staple that I straightened out, and I keep that staple inside the applicator, and that prevents it from clogging. Okay. So that's just one option in terms of glue. I'll talk about glue a little bit more in a minute. But anyway, that's what you would use toothpicks for. Okay. Put just a little bit of that glue on the tip to get into a tiny little area, or to touch up with some paint. So toothpicks are a good thing to have. Let's see, what else do we have here? Okay, cement. Right, we kind of already started on that. So I already told you I kind of like the Revell contact cement. Okay, there is lots and lots of cement and glue out there. If you talk to 100 different people, you'll get 100 different opinions on what type of cement or glue to use. That's just my choice on the contact cement. Now, the other option is to use the Tamiya, all right, thin cement, and that works really well. Now, I have to stop and explain that to you, the Tamiya. What this particular cement does is it will actually weld the two pieces together. Okay, you apply your cement to your edge that's going to be cemented, all right, and on this edge too, and then you put the two together, and what happens is it will soften the plastic, and in the process of that plastic softening, it binds together. Okay, and that's how that works. So this is actually a very good cement to use. I will caution you, do not use it on parts that have already been painted. Now, I have a method of, I paint all my parts ahead of time, okay? And here you go. You can see this is an organizer that I got at Hobby Lobby. Wasn't expensive. I think it was, I don't know, $20 or $30. I don't remember. And I separate all of my parts off the sprue, and I organize them by color. I put a little piece of tape on each individual organizer or cup, whatever you want to call it, container, and then I will separate all the parts off of the sprue and put them in their appropriate container. And if you do that sort of thing, then you don't want to be coming in with this to assemble your parts, okay? Or else your paint will come off. This will take paint off, all right? So that's an important thing. Now, to give you an example, this engine, all right, it came in two halves, all right? And before it was painted, I assembled the two halves of the engine, and I put the heads on. All right, so in other words, I determined all of the parts that were going to make up this engine, and they were all of the parts that were going to be the same color on the engine is probably what I should say. And at that point, not being painted yet, I can go over it with this Tamiya thin glue, all right? And, this is now going to be held together forever, all right? So, and then once this is all put together, I can spray the whole thing as one unit, all right? So the other option is something called CA glue, and I don't see it here. I thought it was here. CA glue is super glue. That's what it is. A lot of people use the Gorilla Glue. I don't particularly love the Gorilla Glue. That's just my opinion. There are others, who do love it. I use the Loctite super glue, and gosh, I wish I knew where that was. It was here. Oh boy, I don't know where it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Okay. Found it. There you go. This is my super glue. Again, it's simply my choice, my preference. And this is the gel. All right. I like the gel because you get a little bit of a gel on a given surface, and I can just put out a tiny little bit, okay, on a surface, and then I can take my toothpick and I can kind of spread that out. So that's my choice on glues, right? And like I said, you'll find that there's a whole lot that's out there to choose from. Sandpaper, we already covered. White plastic spoons. Okay. Why do you want white plastic spoons? Well, because you have an awful lot of colors that are out there, okay? And sometimes, you don't know what the color will look like. I mean, the top of this can will give you a basic idea, but sometimes there's a difference between what you actually get after you spray it and what this color looks like on the cap. So the way you determine that is you have white plastic spoons, and you just shoot the spoon. Okay, this will help you determine the reality of the color. And also, you want to make sure that your nozzle is not going to give you any problems. Okay, sometimes these nozzles, even on the airbrush, if there's a tiny little impediment or something in there and it spits, all right, you'd rather have it spit and make a mess on here than on your car or your plane or whatever it is that you're building. So I have a whole bag of these spoons. This is a clean white one. And yeah, I test all the time on these spoons. And what I actually do is I will prime the spoons ahead of time, so that way I can test it. And you know what? I want to show you something. Yeah, it's right over there. Bear with me. I've got to get this. Hold on. Okay, I'm coming back. Okay. The other option for testing, these are called Display test cards. Okay, see the spelling at the bottom there, Display. And what these do is you get a white primered background, a gray primered background, and a black. And if you're contemplating a particular color, you can just shoot right across, and you'll see, how your paint will look against white, gray, or black primer. Okay, and your base will affect the ultimate color that you're putting down. And as an example, okay, this is, I mentioned that Cuda before. Well, this is the color that I was testing for that Cuda. The one that I went with was this one, the one against the white primer. And then, of course, your gray and black, I can see exactly what it would have looked like. Let me turn that a little bit. You can see it a little bit better. And this was for a Mustang that I recently did. All right. So, this is... this was not used for anything. I was just playing with the airbrush one day. But this is a terrific thing. Comes in a big ring like this. Okay, these are not expensive. I think it's under $10. I think I got these on eBay. So this is a good thing to have. But again, you can also just use your spoons. And for me, what I do a lot of times. And of course, I don't have one here, but I will write down on the handle here what I used, okay, the color and whether it's lacquer or enamel or whatever have you. It'll give you all that information. And this gives you the same information that you can put at the bottom. Can you see all that in the bottom there? So it's good to have a log. I have a log book that I record. It's kind of like a diary, I guess. most of my builds. A lot of times, you'll be working on something and you'll think, gee, what was that color that I used on that build 5 or 6 builds ago? And then you can go back to your logbook and you can reference what it is that you used. And for me, I will write down things like what airbrush I used, what needle was in the airbrush, the PSI, the mixing ratio for that particular color. So that's a useful thing. Not something that you necessarily need to go out and do just yet. That's for somebody who's really kind of involved in the hobby. After you get past that beginner stage, again, we want to make sure you're going to be staying in this hobby before you run out and buy a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, for what it's worth, I just wanted to show you that quick. Okay, Dawn dish soap. Okay, what I do, and I got to tell you, if you've ever heard people discuss politics and how heated a political difference of opinion can get, all right, well, this next thing maybe doesn't rise to that occasion, but it comes close. What I do is I will take all of my parts and I will put them into a great big pot of water and a couple of drops of Dawn dish soap, all right? And I let it soak for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I will take things like the body and I will scrub it with a toothbrush. Okay, and this toothbrush sits down here. It's dedicated specifically for my models and scrubbing it with Dawn and water dish soap so I don't go back and forth between brushing my teeth and this, okay? But what that will do is, sometimes in the injection process for, back at the manufacturing location where they actually manufacture the model kits, you will get a release. I'm trying to remember the name of what specifically it is. It's an injection release fluid. And sometimes you'll get a residue of that on the individual parts. And if that happens, you will get something called a fisheye when you go to spray. It's similar to if you put vegetable oil into a pot of water and it fish eyes, it spreads out, okay? And that's what will happen to your paint if you get this resin on the parts. And, look, there's other things like just contaminants, oils and so forth that sometimes wind up on the plastic. And it's just things that you don't want to have on your plastic prior to painting. So I will do that before every build. And the debate comes in is, a lot of guys will come in and they'll say, that's not necessary. It's overkill. And it always surprises me just how heated this can get over that. So, look, if you're of the opinion that it's overkill and a waste of time, by all means, then don't do it. I'm just sharing what I do. But anyway, if you elect to do that, Dawn dishwashing soap is what you would want to use, just a couple of drops in a big pot of water. Okay. Clamps, that's another thing you want to have. You want to have, and these you can get at Hobby Lobby. Okay. If you want to glue some pieces together and you want to clamp it, this is a good thing to have. Now, there are other clamps that you can get that are much larger, but initially speaking, this is a pretty good thing to have. You can get a whole bag of these for, I don't know, a couple of bucks. And brushes, okay? As we discussed, you don't want to run out and get airbrush equipment and so forth. You want to keep the cost down and go with the basics. So we already discussed the spray cans. Sometimes you can just use, a tester's paint right out of the jar like this. And you want to have some adequate brushes for doing small little detail areas and so forth. That really, what I just covered, should get you started in this hobby without spending a ton of money. Now, I actually went to the trouble of adding all of this up. Here's the list. And can you see that? There we go. There's the list. If you want to pause this, okay, and maybe write some of that down or take a screenshot of it, all right? But all of this stuff on here is bare basics. and it all amounts to about $88. Okay, so that's not a tremendous amount of money, and plus your kit, of course. In selecting a kit, you have a number of things that you can choose from. To say the least, that's putting it mildly. This is a relatively good kit. Let's see if I can get this up here. I just did this AMT Mustang. Actually, for a friend of mine, sent this down to her recently. But this was a relatively straightforward, easy kit. Nice kit for a beginner. Revell makes a number of very easy kits. I personally like to go with car kits. If you're into airplanes, and you can find an aircraft kit that's not too complicated. But this, what I went over with you today, will get you started. And I will go over some other things in another video. If you decide that you are one of those people who have tried it and you love it, then I can go over things like choosing an airbrush. I strongly recommend using an airbrush, but only after you have made the decision to get into this hobby full time. So anyway, that's the start of Papa's Basics, and I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to try to get a video out on the Papa's Basics maybe every week, maybe every other week. I'm not sure yet. So anyway, thanks very much for tuning in. Leave me a comment, subscribe. If you subscribe and leave a comment, that really helps me an awful lot. Give me a thumbs up. If you think I'm full of hot air, then you can give me a thumbs down too. You can also leave comments on my Facebook page. It's Papa's Model Workshop on Facebook. My email address, if you want to communicate with me that way, is Papa's Papa's Model Workshop at gmail.com. Little brain freeze. Okay, so thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.